J.D. Vance, thank you for this. We're on the road. You're in Phoenix.
Yep.
So where is the race right now? I mean, sincerely, to the best of, well, first of all, before we start, who is that?
This is Atlas. Atlas, come here. Atlas, come. What's up, buddy? So this is Atlas, which I found out on the internet a few weeks ago that he's actually a rent-a-dog that was given to me by the campaign to make me seem like I'm a dog fan.
How this weird. You're weird.
And it's actually hysterical to hear these lefties be like, "Oh, that dog, that's totally not his dog." And, you know, of course we got him when he was like an 8-week-old puppy, and we've been, you know, we love dogs, and he's been our little guy. But he's like so well trained and so normal. It's like shocking to me that anybody would think that he's not our puppy, but here we are.
He's on the road with you.
He's on the road with us. Yeah. So we have our whole family up here. My kids are like, you know, two stories above. And of course, they woke up at like 4:30, the ass crack of dawn, because they're on like East Coast time,
yes,
Ohio time, and here we are in Arizona. So we've been up for a long time. I appreciate you doing this, but I'm going to drink a lot of coffee during our interview. But anyway, you asked how was the race going?
Yeah. So what is it? I mean, what is your sincere belief about how this plays out?
I mean, look, I think we're going to win, and I think we're going to win, I wouldn't say comfortably, but I don't think it's going to be the sort of thing where, you know, 3 days later, we don't know the result of the election.
Yeah.
Who knows, of course. I've been wrong before. But, I mean, look, the basic fundamentals of the race are 65% of Americans, give or take, are unhappy with the direction of the country. They're unhappy with the foreign policy chaos. They're unhappy with the fact they can't afford groceries or housing. And they're unhappy just generally with the fact that Kamala Harris is, you know, not a real person who's running for president. She clearly doesn't have her own ideas about how to advance the country forward. So I think that we're in a good spot. Now, there was, of course, the switcheroo from Biden to Harris. And even though a lot of Americans don't like Kamala Harris, like, you know, she's younger and she's not as infirm as Joe Biden is. And so that sort of invigorated the Democratic base a little bit. And you see that sugar high in a little bit of the public polling. I mean, we're about 8 weeks to go before Election Day. And the public polls have shifted a little bit in their direction. But what we're seeing both when we talk to the Kamala Harris, like the journalists that are close to the Kamala Harris campaign, I mean, you know how this goes, right? You sort of give journalists some information. They give you some information. You yourself are a journalist, or at least you once were. And so our numbers, their numbers very clearly show that she's not doing very well in the states that she needs to win.
Yeah.
But a lot could change, and we have to get out the vote. And there, of course, are all of these ways in which Democrats have become very good at using both big tech, but also this sort of ballot harvesting operation to try to squeeze out as many votes as possible in particular areas. So we have to do that ourselves. And I think that we're much better positioned to do it in 2024 than we were in 2020, though there's a lot of catching up to do. But on balance, man, when the country's not going in the right direction and people fondly remember the presidency of Donald Trump because take-home pay was going up, I think that puts us in a good position, but we still have to run our race. I think the real fight is going to be when he becomes president and he tries to do things, they're going to take him down and try to take him down in a very big way. And that's where the real fight is going to be. And I think it's going to look like a few different things. So number one, I really worry about the minute we start doing anything on the deportation front, like you have 25 million illegal aliens, you and I have talked about, I think it's the biggest threat to our country. You have got to get these people out of the country. You are going to have a reaction from the media, from the tech sector that's unlike anything that we've ever seen. It is fascism come to America. When we tell people who have come here illegally, you have to go back home, right? That is going to be a major focal point. I think the other thing that I really worry about, Tucker, is bond markets, right? Because the country's deeply in debt. Atlas, come here. Come here, buddy. Hey, come here. Come here. Sit. Lay down. You're okay. Just chill out. I know you don't have your bed here. He's used to a nice plush pillow here, and he's like, what the hell? None of my stuff is here. I know. Nice. He's a very good dog. So the thing I really worry about on bond markets is, okay, we have, call it $1.6 to $2 trillion in debt every single year in this country getting added to the national debt. And the only thing that really makes that serviceable is that interest rates are still pretty low, right? They're about 4.5%, right? Now, if interest rates go to 8%, and you're actually spending way more to service the debt than you are on actual like goods, services, and infrastructure for your country, like that can become a huge spiral that could take down the finances of this country. We've never had that in 200 plus years of being an American republic. We've never had a true debt spiral in this country. So I really worry about, do the bond markets, do the international investors, the people who are getting rich off of globalization, the people who've gotten rich from shipping our manufacturing base to China, the people who've gotten rich from a lot of wars, do they try to take down the Trump presidency by spiking bond rates?
So two pretty easy, very popular ways to save money would be, one, no more subsidizing illegal immigration.
That's exactly right.
We're not going to pay people to break our laws. We're not going to pay them to rob liquor stores. You know, or come into this country illegal. We're not going to give them free cell phones or free airplane tickets or housing vouchers. We're going to stop doing that. And the second is we're going to stop sending billions of dollars around the world to people who hate us, who, you know, when it doesn't serve our interest.
Yeah.
Why can't we do those things?
And I think it's hundreds of billions of dollars that we're spending on illegal aliens. And this is why I think it's ridiculous for people to say, well, we can't get America's fiscal picture under control unless we cut, you know, Social Security from American citizens who have paid into it for 45 years. My response is, why don't we start with the wars, and why don't we start with not giving illegal aliens a ton of benefits and then see where our fiscal situation is after that?
We haven't done that. Those are wildly popular ideas. I can't imagine that they're below 65, 70% in the polls if you were to pose that question.
Probably higher, yeah.
Yeah, probably higher.
Is the president recognizes that if you have people in your government who you tell to do something and they disobey you, that's not like checks and balances. They're part of your government. The check and balance is the House, the Senate, the judiciary, right? If the people in your own government aren't obeying you, you have got to get rid of them and replace them with people who are responsive to what the president is trying to do. If you don't have that, you don't have a real democratic accountability.
You've got to be a nut cutter because that's the system at stake.
That's right.
That's democratic control. How do voters have any control over their government if the people they elect have no control?
That's exactly right, man. Real democracy is when the elected leaders the voters elect actually make the decisions in the government.
Right.
But fascism, if it's anything, it's that the voters don't get any say in how their government actually operates. So I think you have to do it. And look, man, I've been in politics all of 2 years, but there are all of these really subtle ways in which the media, the tech sector, the people who call the shots try to manipulate the American public and manipulate political leadership into not doing the things the American people actually want. So good pollster versus a standard media pollster. Fabrizio. Tony Fabrizio, great guy. He's the president's pollster. Okay. Take a standard media poll and ask yourself, like, what are they doing? Those polls are all conducted by what's called online panels. In other words, they have a group of people that they go to again and again and again. They ask their opinion. Well, who are the people who are going to respond aggressively to online panels about what they feel about every issue of the day? A bunch of highly engaged, typically far left, typically people with professional degrees, people who are not representative of the American people at large, right? Meanwhile, most Americans are trying to pay their mortgage and trying to take care of their kids and trying to do all the things that are necessary to live a life in this country. And they're not answering the phone when a pollster picks up. So if you actually look at the good pollsters, they're telling you a radically different story because they're talking to a representative sample of the United States. And the fake media pollsters are talking to a very narrow slice of the United States. And again, they're trying to sell us a story. And it's not just, this is not primarily to manipulate the American people. I think it's to manipulate us, meaning elected officials. Because I've sat in lunches with a number of my colleagues who will say, look at this poll and look how Americans are responding to this or that issue. And then you realize that that exact same poll was wildly inaccurate 2 years ago. Why are you making your judgments about what the American people believe based on some poll? And oh, by the way, why don't you express some leadership? Why don't you just actually have a view and go to the American people and try to persuade them that your view is wise and then enact legislation in accordance with that wisdom, right? Like that's how real leadership should work.
What's so deceptive, and I think what people don't realize is that a lot of these polls are designed not to measure opinion, but to shape it.
Yes.
What if the hot war breaks out between now and November?
Well, that's a very good question. Look, I obviously baseline, I don't want a hot war to break out because I don't think that we have a functional president right now, right? I genuinely think that the closest thing that we have to a president right now is Kamala Harris, because Joe Biden clearly can't do the job. The people around him recognize that. And so it's the bureaucrats and Kamala who are calling the shots. If, God forbid, a true hot war, not just between Russia and Ukraine, but a broader regional war broke out, or not just between, Israel and some of Iran's proxies, but a broader regional war, it would scare the hell out of me to have Kamala Harris at the helm. Where you watch Kamala Harris give an interview, I mean, this is not a person who has very well-developed views about what she wants to do in the world. She's fundamentally a cog in the wheel of a very corrupt machine. That scares the hell out of me when that person goes to negotiate with a world leader about a hot war.
If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date with future videos. Thank you for watching.